If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. I don't have to worry about this really because I'm not on Facebook, but I do worry about it because it has to do with censorship. It has to do with people like me because they'll just use, me as an example of my content for people who are sharing it. And of course I care because I care about you and other people who might have Facebook or might just be getting victimized by these types of things in this world. Why do I care? Well, I guess I'm a nice guy. I don't know. But Facebook is now asking as a prompt that asks if you worry friends are becoming extremists. Kid you not. Kid you not. And this is when I mention the Q stuff all the time about, if you're new to my channel, first of all, it's trendy now to be conspiracy. It's annoying. When I was doing this 2 years ago, this wasn't trendy. 3 years ago. Okay, after Pizzagate happened, which is exactly why I think it was real, one of the reasons, and of course all this stuff, look, some of the evidence obviously is speculation, but the fact the guy was posting all those things with the kids, you can't argue that. It's on his Instagram account. It's pretty freaking disturbing. You would investigate your neighbor if they were doing stuff like that. So it was worth of investigation at the very least. The other stuff obviously then became this big, who and who was involved and all that stuff. What I did when that happened was I showed all the establishments surrounding it, how that they were obviously fronts for laundering and doing that stuff. The Clintons being involved around there, the stores next door having the symbols that I expose here. So that's where, I really was focusing, and the Mason Lodge up there and all that stuff. And what happened was they came out and they, made a fake event there and all that stuff. And that's where Q formed. And what happened is a lot of people who were into this movement just kind of floated into that and believed it. And I said at the time, and people, this is the problem. The people who hear me talk about Q, they're like, you're jealous. Oh, Q's so popular. We were all making fun of it and talking about what it was at the beginning of it, before it became this big thing where the media talks about it. And again, the media will only talk about it if it's a part of it. The only time the media would ever mention me is if they frame me for something. They would never mention me. But meanwhile, it's pretty evident that I am censored on here and I get a lot of views and a lot of eyeballs always on my channels. So if the TV was really about, let's talk about things that are entertaining and then they probably will bring it up, but they can't bring it up because they know if more eyeballs are on me, more people will wake up because I'm not leading anyone astray. Even the people who claim I am, I'm not. You just might not agree with me or like the sound of my voice, which is perfectly fine. But this was the warning that we all gave about Q. Because what Q was going to do was link into extremism, terror, weapons, doing something, actually taking it to the streets violently, that type of stuff. So we all get linked into this because this is what the common person does when they hear anything about conspiracy. So if you bring something up, they think you're automatically in Q. That was the whole purpose of it. That's what they've done to it. And that is to bring on censorship to everyone. And this is where it comes from. Facebook prompt asking if your friends are becoming extremists. It's unbelievable what they've been able to do with the Q stuff. What's more unbelievable is it's the people who think they're awake who are in Q. And you'll see it in the comment section. You're wrong about Q. I get it. You want to grasp onto something and hold on to something for hope. These are the same people that were grasping onto Donald Trump, and they still think, that he's not a part of it. Like him running in 2024 isn't a part of their plan for division and chaos. Of course it is. Of course it is. It's so obvious. It's the stupidest script. It's almost like a horror movie. You can predict every move they're making at this point. Social media has become a hotbed of extremism as political discourse has increased in recent years, leading Facebook to wonder if you're worried your friends or acquaintances on the network are becoming extremists. The social media giant has begun serving prompts to some users in the U.S. asking that very question. A company spokesperson said Thursday, it's also begun notifying people who may have been exposed to extremist content, according to screenshots shared on Twitter. So obviously that affects me from that standpoint, that anyone who would share my channel or something will get lumped into that. Because people always message, I share your stuff on Twitter, I share it on Facebook. Now, this is what's funny about it. They lump you in as an extremist. I am not violent. I do not own a gun. I do not want I support people who do, because as long as Big Brother has it, then the citizens should be able to. People ask me why I don't. Because I don't. Because I don't really care. If they come and put 2 in my head, then come put 2 in my head. I'm ready. I'm at peace. I'm good. Okay? I'm good. But they'll lump us into it, right? They'll lump us in as being extremists. They the people who hear me talk about the prideful stuff, they're like, oh, you're hateful. I'm not hateful. We want it out of our faces. We don't want you shoving it down the throats of the children. That's it. That's your sin to bear. You go do it. Okay? That's all that anyone like me or everyone else who listens to me or has the same mindset as me is saying. Stop. We don't want to see it. The parades. Bye. Get lost. That's what I'm saying. Stop putting it in shows to influence kids. That's what it, and I can't even say what I want to say because they won't let me. And they're like, no, that's hateful because you don't agree. Yeah, I don't agree, but I don't wish any harm on you. I wish you'd stop getting us all censored across the world from using great words like gay. But anyway, as I continue on here, this extremist stuff, right? Everyone's an extremist who doesn't agree with your opinion is the way the world has gone. So one of the alerts shared on Twitter asked, are you concerned that someone you know is becoming, I can't believe I'm reading this, an extremist? We care about preventing extremism on Facebook. Others in your situation have received confidential support. Another alert reads, violent groups try to manipulate your anger and disappointment. You can take action now to protect yourself and others. These are George Soros funded groups. I mean, clearly. I don't hear any truthers talking like this. People have been doing this for a long time, talking about this stuff for a long time. And then it says both alerts link to support resources for help. Facebook, Google, and Twitter have for years been under pressure to remove extremist content from their platforms before violence spills into the real world. I mean, this is such a joke. How do people who are even leftists or whatever not see what they're doing? No one is violence into the real world for having a difference of opinion, for not liking what they're doing to us. It doesn't equate to violence. This is what they do to me, and they keep shutting my channels down and stuff. Violence spilling into the real world, but that focus intensified this year amid increased scrutiny for the role their platforms played in the buildup to the deadly riots at the U.S. Capitol in January, which obviously we keep hearing about, which is like, I think what happened was, I think it was like, you fill up a balloon and all the air flies out of it real fast before it takes off. I think like more stuff was supposed to happen there, and it fell flat in its face. I can't believe they still talk about it, and they try to compare it to the 9, I think it happened in September of 2001. They talk about it like it's the same thing. I mean, even the stuff that they say was really happened. Besides the fact that there hasn't been in the last year, at least, anything that's been more laughable. People scaling the building. I mean, it's unbelievable. But see, they're tying us into it because they tie us into Trump. They tie us in. And meanwhile, I say it every video almost I do. I talk about how the left-right is fake. There is no election. It's a selection. This isn't the whole world that you see here in America is not real. Your vote does not count. This illusion of freedom is based off of mind control. You going to the store and picking out food, guess what? Oh, you could have Cheerios on row 1 or you could have the cheaper brand below it. Guess what? It's owned by the same company. It's the same chemicals in each one. They created the illusion of freedom so they can do this to people without forcing it onto people. They're technically forcing it without forcing it. The same that they're doing with the jab. We're not going to force it onto you. We're not going to come to your door and stick it in you, but you can't go to the store. You can't eat. You can't buy or sell. Oh my gosh. What does that leave you with? That's forcing without forcing. And that's what this country's built off of, this illusion of freedom. So all of this stuff with extremism, they tie in. So I constantly say, and no one listens to me when I try to appeal strikes or things like that. I am not a Trump supporter. I am not because it's not real. There's nothing to support. They're in bed with each other. And I can't believe that there's people who think they're awake, that think their vote counts, that all this stuff's going on, and they're actually sitting there going, but you get to pick who's the president. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I get it that people want to have hope, but put your hope in Christ. That's it. You put your hope in man. Put your hope in a system that they created to screw everyone over. And it's unbelievable. And they put they're all just sitting around waiting. I can't wait for the next election. Ooh, Trump's going to be back. It's going to be Trump versus Kamala. I mean, who's the special referee going to be? It sounds like a WrestleMania match. The whole thing is it's unbelievable. So the pilot program is part of Facebook's Redirect initiative, which aims to combat violent extremism on the site by redirecting people who search for hate or violence-related terms to educational resources and outreach groups, all brought to you by Big Brother. This test is part of our larger work to assess ways to provide resources and support to people on Facebook who may have engaged with or were exposed to extremist content. I love how people don't go, look, I'll decide what I want to watch and what I want to listen to, and if I don't like it, I'll turn it off. That should be the whole mindset even here on YouTube. You know, oh, I don't like Cole's opinion on the Pride and all that. Okay, then don't listen. I'm not calling for anyone to go hurt you. I'm allowed to have a difference of opinion. I'm not showing up at your events and doing anything. I don't even want to be within 50 feet of you. You know, I don't want to get cooties. I'm kidding, but still, I don't want to be 50 feet within 50 feet anyway of these people. But anyway, right, just don't listen. Shut it off. You don't need Big Brother to tell you and alert you that it's extremist content, and then they'll come in and say, "Here, let us play these videos brought to you by by the CIA to help you learn what you just watched and why it's wrong." How do people not see this? Turn it off then. If you're a parent, don't let your kids roam free on the internet. Don't say, well, my kid might walk into it. Then don't let them roam free on the web. Parents used to parent their kids and watch what they watched. Holy crap. Facebook said the program is part of its commitment to Christchurch Call to Action, an international partnership among governments. You gotta love how they use Christchurch. And tech companies that seek to curb violent extreme content online following the massacre of 51 people at a mosque, of course. I'm just gonna completely ignore that. Facebook said in February it had to remove an increased amount of content in the fourth quarter for violating rules against hate speech and harassment, but it also said the percentage of times a user sees hate speech, nudity, and violent and graphic content on its platform, it's also dropping. There are 7 to 8 views of hate speech for every 10,000 views of content. Okay. And who's defining what hate speech is the question, right? Disagreeing with somebody who's got a perverse view of something? Okay. But look, it's not hard to read between the lines. And by the way, if they want to worry about nudity, like, that's the thing. YouTube says the same thing. They're like, oh, we got to censor all this stuff. There's so much crazy crap on here. You know, Cardi B puts out music videos. She's butt naked. He's butt naked. Whatever it is. All of them. And they don't worry about that. They worry about me because, or not just me, I use me as an example, but all of us, right? Because especially if you're waking people up, obviously, and they just want to lump it into extremists, even if there's nothing in it about doing anything as far as extremism goes. I mean, it's a joke. It's an utter joke. But this is Facebook, Big Brother coming in, taking control, and nobody seeing what's going on. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And the people on the left, instead of, they want to be like, they think they're winning at something, and they're like, oh yeah, let's get them shut down. We're going to take it. They don't realize that they're doing it to themselves, too. You think Big Brother is going to be there to pat you on the rear end? They're going to shut you down at the end after you got to get us all shut down. And you're going to be the one, they're all going to be the ones like I talk about who are going to be like, okay, I guess it's for the best interest of all of us. Because whatever Big Brother tells them, they do. They have no brain whatsoever in their head. They believe everything they were taught in school because they're prideful. Nothing but lie after lie. I've been there. I learned it. You got to just accept it, that it's crap, that you were taught lies. You were put in a system here. You got to let the pride go. They don't let the pride go. They won't let it go. They want to think they're, and then the hardest part for them is like people like us who are, they're like, I'm not going to let them think they're outsmarting me. Well, guess what? At one point in time, I was asleep. I didn't want to necessarily believe it, but at the same time, I knew something was wrong. So I was just like, man, makes sense. All right. I mean, I'm not a prideful person, believe it or not. So when I heard all this stuff, I wasn't like, no. I was just like, ugh. I'm like, yep, that sounds about right. Jeez, we're screwed. And then the more you go down and see all this stuff, the rabbit hole, well, the more frustrating it gets because you can't believe that you were duped all these years and didn't see it. And secondly, you know what they do to children and everything else, and you just want to, well, do something about it. So the best I can do right now is trying to wake as many people up as possible. And I'll continue to do that despite the extremist censorship and all that other nonsense. They can really just kiss my rear end as far as I'm concerned. They can keep taking channels down. I will keep going. I will be here. But again, in the event that my channel does get a strike, I can't upload here, so make sure you sub to my other channel. Best place to be is on my website at callforuprising.com. Don't have to worry about censorship, and I will be there if you like to listen to my content. I recommend you do that. There's a lot of censored content on there. Lots of stuff that people need to see and should see that you can't talk about here. So check out the website if you haven't. I want to thank all of you for being here. God bless you and your families.